Good evening and welcome to the Minions of the Zoo Night Stream. I'm your host, the Harry Channel, and with me tonight is Prospero.
Hello.
DrFunctional.
Good evening.
Serenity Star 13.
Hello.
And we may be joined by Geodes possibly later. I know he wanted to be here, but he seems to have disappeared. That's okay. Hopefully we won't find him in a hostel. Did you hear about that case in New York? They were looking for some woman and she just sort of disappeared with some random group of people in a car, and they just found her in a hostel. It's like, okay.
Sounds like a cult, but okay.
Yeah.
Sounds like raving in the 90s.
Yeah. So we have a ton of show in front of us tonight. It should be interesting. Skep Tock has to deal with IRL stuff, but adult supervision is going to be provided tonight by Prospero. So I think we will be. I think we'll be okay. Does anybody have anything they would like to unburden themselves with before we dive into all of the stuff that we have to talk about?
I do.
Oh, God.
Well, let's. I know you have a thing you want to talk about.
Okay. If we want to hold off
so
on
why
that,
don't we
we'll
give everybody their daily ventilation before you start on that?
Spleen venting.
Yes. Because I got some complaining to do.
It's in the 50s.
Yeah.
Last week in May in Virginia, and I am irked.
Is that good or bad?
It is sucky. It is not. I am not speaking in monkey measurements of Celsius. I am speaking of it's 10 degrees here, and that's stupid.
Yeah.
And wrong, and this, I'm not pleased.
Yeah, imperial units are much better for talking about temperature when it comes to human comfort. I just find it to be a better scale for dealing with human comfort. When you start saying it's 10, it's like that sounds cold.
That's because it is cold. Once you get to 0, you're going to start freezing.
Your degrees are too large. That's the problem. The difference between like 27 and 28 is huge.
Mm-hmm. That's good for human comfort. Whatever. We're not going down this road.
That's right. The thumb. An inch. It's the length of the king's thumb. You know what is a centimeter? It's the width of the metric man's eyebrow.
And what is that? And a cubit is the measurement of a grown man's arm from the base of his elbow to the tip of his middle finger. Exactly. You know, it's just like, thanks.
Hey,
we're not talking stone here, okay?
It's much better having some
I weigh 13 stone, governor.
Some French guy with a stick basically climbing from the equator up to the North Pole. It's like, was that 50,000? No, not quite. Well, better make the stick smaller and do it again.
Yeah.
Anyway, Functional, you wanted to talk about China so dumb, I think.
China's so dumb. So I trust that most people in the audience have already seen the supposed footage of the Chinese Mars lander and the room of high school students who were supposedly their space command.
Look what I did with Photoshop.
Oh man, I've seen better animations in high school, like animation class. It was so terrible.
Is it better or worse than the North Korean animation where they were talking about their space program and how they were going to destroy everybody? Did you ever see that one?
Marginally better. Yeah. It's marginally better. But it's not good. It's not good.
Yeah.
And all I can do is sit and laugh.
Yeah, it was fraught, wasn't it? It was like the landing the thing with all those moments of terror.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, okay, I can understand if you're in charge of the program and if it goes south that you might be a little terrified because you've just got to hope
China, they'd all be executed.
I was going to say, you've just got to hope that the one bullet does it. You know, but it's just, please.
But oh man, like when it lands, there's no First of all, a lot of people are talking about where's this camera coming from? Okay, let's suspend that for a moment. when it actually moves, there is no vibration, no movement, no displacement of the dust. It is a great dust ball of a planet.
Yep, there's no poof.
And there's actually a couple of frames of a lens flare underneath the lander, like a light flare that's bouncing off of nothing. It just appears and then disappears. Oh my god, I couldn't stop laughing for a good 2 hours at that when I saw it.
Yeah, it's not good.
Way to go, China!
It's like they meant to have to tow that aircraft carrier back to port. Yeah, we meant to do this. So sure you did.
Their next day. Oh, sorry.
But it's blessed their hearts with the saving face business. I mean, you cannot underestimate how important saving face is to the Chinese.
Oh yeah, especially considered.
It's why one of the stories we're going to get to is layer upon layer upon layer of persiflage. It's just all they will. Yep, I meant to do that. I mean, it's just like you would attribute it to self-consciousness, but that's not what it is. It is a long-standing honor tradition that you can't be incorrect.
The government, the party are infallible.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it has a lot to do, though. You know, a lot of people were very surprised in Japan that after the shit show that followed the tsunami with the Fukushima reactor, not that which was out of their control, but the things that were revealed about I don't know, failures to like follow standard operating procedures and things like that, that there were not suicides, because it used to be pretty common that if there was a gigantic business failure or some kind of incredible infrastructure failure that indicated deliberate cutting corners or gross stupidity, that there would be a series of suicides.
Yeah.
I think it has a lot to do with I don't know how to put this, because I'm not singling out the Asian cultures for this, but there is such an honor tradition that is different from Western sense of honor, that business about saving face really matters.
It seems like
matters.
They've kind of adopted a little bit of the Western, yes, I failed, but I can try again.
I think the Japanese have in particular.
Yeah, that's specifically
and I don't think the Koreans were as beset by that nonsense. They've been through enough shit.
If Sanguine was here, he could tell us how to write participation medal in Chinese, I think.
I don't want to know how.
Yeah, no, neither. Know how.
Know how.
Look, know how. Hey, do you want to talk about Florida?
Why?
Please clap.
Yes, please clap. Yes, definitely want to talk about Florida.
All right, let's make this larger and different.
Oh, Jeb.
Poor boy.
Governor Desantis signs bill to stop tech companies from censoring politicians.
Bless him.
Yeah. This wild man, Ron DeSantis, and his massive swinging testicles.
Yeah.
Let's see. Signed a bill on Monday meant to punish tech companies that are accused of policing conservative thought. The legislation aims to stop social media companies from deplatforming political candidates. It's an apparent nod to President Donald Trump, who was banned from Twitter and Facebook earlier this year. What we've been seeing across the U.S. is an effort to silence, intimidate, and wipe out dissenting voices by the leftist media and big corporations. Today, by signing, I guess that's Senate Bill 7072 into law, Florida is taking back the virtual public square as a space where information and ideas can flow freely, said Lieutenant Governor Jeanette Nunez. The bill gives the state's election commission power to fine media companies up to $250,000 a day for deplatforming any candidate for statewide office, and a $25,000 per day for deplatforming candidates for non-statewide offices. It also gives Floridians the right to sue companies that would violate the law and win monetary damages. It could be momentary. Depends on what you do with them.
Momentary monetary.
Depends on the appeals process.
Exactly. I mean, there are casinos there. And you might try to go double or nothing. And let's Florida's Attorney General go after these companies. If social media platforms are found to have violated antitrust law, they will be restricted from contracting with any public entity. That antitrust violator blacklist imposes real consequences for big tech oligopolies. Bottom line, the governor's office said in a news release. The Florida House voted 77-38 in favor of the bill, the Senate 23-17. So, what do you guys think about this?
The complaint from the opposition is so silly. It misses the point entirely.
Hey, Geodes.
It's actually quoted.
Hi, Geodes.
Hey, Geodes. The bill is a retaliation for the former presidential administration being banned from social media sites by spreading false information, inciting riots, sedition, and violence.
Yeah.
A Democrat who sought to kill the legislation said in April. That is utterly irrespective of what Desantis is going for, because what he's doing is this is a callback to that the equal time that we used to have for television advertising.
Or the fairness doctrine.
Fairness doctrine, yeah.
Yeah.
That it's exactly a callback to that.
Yep.
That if you bar any statewide candidate, and candidates have to go through an approval process. They need signatures. They need to be verified as who they are, that kind of thing. Not just anybody can get on any ballot. To block them from using social media is
Arbitrarily.
to literally interfere with their ability to campaign.
Mm-hmm.
We all know how popular Twitter is, and in some spheres, Facebook. So this will be interesting. I'm sure there are already lawsuits being filed, or at least being prepared by the tech guys. And they make a big distinction between statewide office and local offices
And private citizens.
Yeah.
Which I think is the most important part, because that's how these companies make money.
Well, question, just overarching question for anybody. If the tech companies do the lawsuits and claim that they have the right to do what they want to do, does that mean they will have to signify whether they are a publisher or a platform? Could it force them, and thus
it could force them to make statements that could be perceived that way.
Okay.
This, in some ways, it could be that Desantis is on a fishing expedition.
Yeah, he's trying to force their hand.
Yeah, because that's the thing. If it forces them, because if they do try to sue Florida and say you can't do this, or set lawsuits for Florida, if there's a half decent lawyer who goes against the tech companies, they go, okay, well, what are you? Are you a platform or are you a publisher?
Well, to steelman the argument from big tech side, they have terms of service.
Yeah.
And it is conceivable that a candidate could violate these terms of service.
Yeah.
They could use profanity or something like that was barred in a particular scenario. We know that is not the case on Twitter.
Yeah.
Or by and large on Facebook. Anything that they would really use, though, like kiddie porn and things like that, I think Florida would be prosecuting. So the whimsy by which Twitter seems to make its decisions, is, and particularly Facebook, with the what is not misinformation.
Mhm.
I don't see how they wriggle out of this.
Yeah.
Because,
Well, may I frame this a little? But I have a
Sure.
question, sort of a question statement. I'm not sure what to call this. To my mind, it gets a little weird because the fairness doctrine made sense when you were talking about a limited amount of bandwidth spectrum, and a license had to be obtained in order to use some of this limited spectrum. So
Right.
they, as a requirement of getting an FCC license to broadcast, the fairness doctrine was one of these things that said, okay, you have to put out some amount of programming in the public interest. You have to do these things. That's no longer here. So there's really not much of a basis for that, in the fairness doctrine,
Right.
in my opinion. Now, I'm not an expert, but this is just my layperson's opinion. I do think that what is relevant, though, was the case that basically said that Donald Trump could not block journalists from his Twitter account.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
that established a precedent which could be leveraged that says, look, you may be a private company, but this has become the public square. This is where political discourse takes place. And as a de facto public square in which these things take place, you have to honor the Constitution in the spirit and the letter.
Well, that
And I
ruling
think
did do that.
was that is the case that, to my mind, changes everything because
Yeah.
this is clearly interstate commerce.
Yes.
You can't
Yeah.
get much more interstate than the internet.
Yes.
And states do have a weird amount of power as far as interstate commerce goes. If I want to send wine to a friend in Florida, I can't unless I have it directly shipped from a vineyard in California.
Right.
There's a bunch of weird things that are just dumb and stupid, but states are allowed to do them. But I do think that if that stands as a precedent, that one case with Trump, that's the basis for basically saying, no, you can't restrict political speech, even if you are a private company, not when you've become sort of a de facto leader
Right.
like this.
You can't cherry pick which part of the First Amendment that you want to stand up for.
Right. And this goes to the idea of what Functional was talking about. Are you a what is it?
Publisher platform.
A publisher or a platform?
Yep. This is a mess. I mean, and it's a mess that Twitter and Facebook have made for themselves. If they had not, but they have been.
And there's also been some bluster, like look at Ted Cruz, talked about it ad nauseum, but never did anything. So I'm happy to see somebody taking action, and hopefully other states will get on this train.
Yeah, it even if it just gets court cases in the pipeline,
Yeah.
Yep.
because there have been some signals from the Supreme Court that they are interested in looking at how social media is behaving.
Well, at least they're willing to look at this. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I'm salty
But they
about
need-
certain
Well, we
things.
have another story here. Speaking of their whimsical and capricious, since we actually have a segue, why don't we seize it by the horns and stay on course? Facebook reverses course, won't ban lab virus theory.
They're going to
Massively.
reinstate all the people they banned for.
That is an excellent, good question that you just
Super
asked,
damages?
Prospero. And the answer to that is I don't know.
Yeah, they haven't said, but there were a fair number of people who lost their accounts because they persisted in saying things like Kung, long space, so Susan doesn't realize they're put together flu, and
Chinese enrichment.
yes, Chinese enrichment of virus and other such things. YouTube has not been very friendly about that.
Yeah. Well, you can, it's like those fake herbal male vitality things. It helps extends you in that, enhance you in that special area. In this case, it's the spike protein because you don't want to have a flaccid spike protein.
Oh no, you want to make sure that your spike proteins, all of them.
That they're all spiky and ready for action.
Yes, we
At any
want
time.
turgid protein spikes.
Jesus. It also makes me wonder, Prospero, whether or not people are going to be able to pursue damages, because there have been people who do business on these platforms like Twitter, like Facebook, like YouTube. This could be part of that bigger story that we were talking about with the previous story.
Yeah.
Oh, it does make me also wonder if the reason they're doing this too is kind of to prep for oncoming lawsuits as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They better go find out how many people they banned and get them back on quickly, because
Yeah.
if they don't, they have still fouled people up. I mean, there were members of the medical community that got chased off of these platforms for positing this kind of thing. I think they were too afraid to go after Brett Weinstein because he became far too high profile. If he and his wife Heather had been doing their podcast while they were still in the employ of Evergreen and nobody really knew them, they would have been yeeted into the sun.
Oh yeah.
But everybody knows the name now.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt who his brother is either.
No, it doesn't.
Not that he's riding his brother's coattails, but it gave him an extra dose of credibility when he was starting out that I think gave him that really, really helped launch him.
Yes, because Eric is even more, I mean, when you talk about the intellectual dark web, as they got named for whatever retarded reason.
Yeah.
I am not dissing Brett.
No, Eric is
But
Palpatine.
Eric is
Brett is Vader.
Eric's a cut above.
Well, okay, in some ways, yeah. I think they're so different that I wouldn't...
They are different.
I mean, in terms of like just sheer juice and ability to persuade people on politics and economics and stuff, Eric is a cut above. In something like this, I think Brett is.
Oh, he's the authority.
He's the alpha. He's the
Yeah.
alpha
Oh, yeah,
on
yeah,
this
yeah.
sort of stuff.
Because this is his bailiwick.
Wheelhouse.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I mean, in this particular type of stuff, he's a cut above his brother.
Oh yeah, I mean, I wouldn't take biological advice from Eric, nor would I take economic advice from Brett.
Yeah, the Von Mises family picnics must have been a lot of fun.
Yeah, that kind of. This is the same thing. You just have two brainiacs, but two very and they're similar in that they both have very good senses of humor, and they are agreeable even with people who hold wildly different political views than theirs.
Yeah.
They were raised well. They're polite men. Brett's a little more entertaining, if you know what I mean, because he's a little more nutty professor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he hands it up a bit.
Little wild childy, and it's funny to watch their podcast because Heather is frequently saying no to him.
No,
Yeah.
she does a very, very good job playing off of him and asking the right questions, and she's legitimately good in her own right.
Oh yeah, which is why she's good at saying no.
And why they're so good together. They're just such a cute couple.
Yeah, and they don't get into arguments with each other. And then she is a knower, no, but it's
Yeah.
just, which could drive some people crazy. And he just kind of blinks at her. It's just,
Well, yeah, Kel Surprise, a guy like Brett wouldn't be attracted to dumb women.
yeah, no, it's
It's interesting how all of this first was established, and the whole trend of banning people for this quote unquote misinformation, because they got their cues from public health officials in light of something we already talked about, where biologists, scientists, people who are this is the stuff that they deal with for their vocation, said, they were looking at markers, they were looking at different the different structures, and said, hey, there's something weird here. It does not look natural, but instead, follow the science was completely ignored again.
well, that's because it was follow the political science. Not
Well, yeah, it's censorship
yeah.
before the evidence. It's,
and the WHO, I really don't think the best and the brightest of the world end up there. I think they are in private labs.
yeah, private labs in the West.
There's been a great deal missed throughout the course of this. At no point were they looking for patient alpha in Italy. I mean, we now have information coming to us about how much earlier the virus was present in Italy. And that was purely by happy accident.
Well, I mean, in the United States, they've seen how early it was here just from some of the blood donations that they had. We had it as early as very early 2019 here, and some of the stuff I've heard.
Yep.
I have not seen anything.
I have not
that
seen
cites
anything
that
supporting
early.
2019
But
that
certainly
early.
fall of 2020.
Fall of.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm
2019.
saying I just haven't seen your
Fall
source.
of
I
2019.
think it references it in this article.
I'm just trying to protect us from the big bad season.
And it's not fall of 2020 here, but fall of 2019.
If we were all in person just drinking a beer, I wouldn't have even said anything.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah,
You're afraid of the wham hammer.
Yeah, I am afraid of the wham hammer. But we have another article here, which is continuing along this trajectory. I thought Functional, he just keeps throwing me segues. I just don't know if you're doing it on purpose or by accident.
I am. You told. Yeah.
That tells you everything you need to know, Gary.
No, I popped my shoulder. It really hurts. You told me you didn't have much time to go through the material that we were going through, so I went through it and trying to throw a little.
Because my car's broken. And I got to spend a lot of time on my motorcycle today, and I haven't done that in about a year. And there's some muscles that haven't been used in a while. It's like, damn, that horse was brutal today. But yeah.
So a lot of the meat of the article is actually in these bullet points. The rest is just kind of going over stuff. But there's a lot of points here.
Well, let's go over a few of these points, just keeping in mind this is the Daily Mail. This is the conversation that's taking place.
But yeah,
an explosive new study claims researchers found unique fingerprints in COVID-19 samples that they say could only have arisen from manipulation in a laboratory. And for the record, that's exactly what I said you would find. That would be the only way you could tell the difference.
Fuck you, I was right. Fuck you, I was right.
Well, I've been right about a lot of stuff involving COVID.
No, he's just doing the razor fist. Fuck you, I was right.
Yeah.
Because I remember you saying that. I agreed with you entirely, and we watch a lot of the same content and read a lot of the same areas surrounding this. So it's. DailyMail.com exclusively obtained the new 22-page paper authored by British professor Angus Dalgleish. Dalgleish. And Norwegian scientist Dr. Birger Sørensen, set to be published in the Quarterly Review of Biophysics Discovery. The study showed there was evidence to suggest Chinese scientists created the virus while working on a gain-of-function project in a Wuhan lab. Gain-of-function research, which was temporarily outlawed in the U.S., involves altering naturally occurring viruses to make them more infectious in order to study their potential effects on humans. According to the paper, Chinese scientists took a natural coronavirus backbone found in Chinese cave bats and spliced it onto a new spike, turning it into the deadly and highly transmissible COVID-19. The researchers who concluded that COVID-19 has no credible natural ancestor also believe scientists reverse-engineered versions of the virus to cover up their tracks. Now,
that part's the insidious part. Like,
now, just keep in mind, I've been alive a little longer than some of you, and I have been through a lot of scientist with PhD says in my life. So I'm maybe more skeptical than some people. I mean, I've lived through cold fusion, for God's sakes. I don't believe everything that people put out, but
I've lived through a Chinese Martian landing.
If somebody did engineer this thing, one would expect that there would be some telltale fingerprints left behind. As in, the natural process doesn't normally do this on its own or so quickly.
Especially in comparison to the original SARS virus, which they were able to track the provenance of from bats to civets to humans.
Yes, exactly. And by looking at the things they were studying in the lab, it should be possible to figure out if it came from the lab. Now, that only works if they're cooperating.
One of the things Rand Paul mentioned, and I did not go to hunt up any data for this, I think we'll probably see it, is that they have attempted to introduce what we are dealing with SARS-2 to bats, and they haven't had much success in it taking, which is a bit of a tell. in that it was not. It doesn't. It's not related to something they would have had or been particularly transmissible among them. And it would need to be highly transmissible among the bats to make the jump to another species, to then make the jump to humans the way the original SARS virus did. Yeah. That seems to be that working theory, that in the attempts to test through, in quote, reverse engineering, it hasn't, the seed hasn't taken, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which kind of indicates you changed it so much that they're not catching it because it's not latching on the way the spike protein does in humans.
Well, do bats even have ACE2 receptors?
I do not.
Yes.
I would presume they do. They're mammals.
I don't know if all mammals have ACE2 receptors, or certainly not to the same number. I mean, this is the kind of thing where somebody who is much more expert than any of us could probably figure this out. I'm hoping that somebody like that will actually do that work, and I expect they probably will. Because you cannot keep, if this was something that escaped in the lab, they're not going to be able to keep the truth of that hidden forever.
Well, there was a study regarding coronavirus in animals, and it dealt with ACE2, because they were talking about which species would be more at risk based on animals with all 25 amino acid residues matching the human protein are predicted to be at the highest risk for contracting SARS-CoV-2 via ACE2.
Yeah.
So the great apes, then high for deer and giant anteater, and medium for felines for the Siberian tiger, the house cat, sheep and cattle, low for pigs, horses, dogs, the African elephant, and very low for the house mouse, the American crow, the American alligator, and the California sea lion.
And even within
that
those,
will make Jenna happy.
Yes.
Even within those different species, different breeds, different families of those animals have different receptibility to them as well.
Well, let me ask Geodes, do you still want to talk about the AI in a post-pandemic economy?
We can if you want.
Well, I mean, it's up to you. You suggested it. If you'd like to talk about it, I have not had a chance to take a look at it, so it's going to be on you.
Sure. I could kind of go over it a little bit. I've kind of read through it briefly.
Well, tell me why you thought this was newsworthy. I mean, I can tell you that anecdotally, I've seen an awfully big push on AI stuff, but it's not clear to me whether it's because of the pandemic or whether it just would have happened anyway. And I'm kind of inclined to think it would have just happened anyway. Not to shit all over the headline, but tell me what's going on here.
So basically, from what I can tell from the article, they're more or less kind of going into not really even AI, but more algorithm-based programs that are able to handle, for example, like shopping orders much more efficiently than employees at stores would. Flights scheduling, as far as airplanes and stuff, they've been able to come up with programs that handle it more efficiently. Sort of what they're kind of aiming for is, they seem to be implying that that it's meant, these programs are meant to work alongside existing employees to make sure that everything is working the way it's supposed to, and that the employees still have a job and everything, which is more or less about what I expect. I think the main reason why it was kind of interesting, though, is sort of the way it's being pitched. Because a lot of times it seems like they're really trying to emphasize that, oh, well, don't worry, this is supposed to work in tangent with
people?
With people. exactly. And I'm kind of more inclined to believe that really what is that they haven't really worked out all the bugs in the programs yet. And while they probably still are planning on keeping people on, it's one of those things where, yeah, we're kind of transitioning into a point where you're looking at probably more like a skeleton crew as these programs get more and more advanced. That will just make sure that everything is working correctly, and that if something breaks, they will be able to actually follow up and do what they need to do.
So almost more of a high-end automation rather than an actual AI.
That's kind of what I got from the article overall.
Interesting.
Well, there's a bunch of, like, for instance, you touched on a lot of different stuff. In terms of the airline stuff, that's been worked on for decades in one form or another. Because it's not so much when the planes are in the air that's the issue. It's having them all arrive at the airports at roughly the same time and getting them efficiently to the terminal and then back in the air. That's really difficult. So there's a program at NASA, a project called Future Flight Central, and they've been around for quite a long time. And they're located at NASA Ames, and they do a lot of this sort of work. Because when they first started coming up with supercomputers, they started doing simulations to figure out how to optimize those precious gates for the airplanes coming in, to figure out better ways to minimize that, because it's a huge difference in terms of the number of people that get moved per day or the amount of cargo, if you can refine that even a little bit. So that totally makes sense. Now, as far as the worker having an expert system to assist them, that's something they've been working on as well. They started a lot of that stuff in medicine, because a lot of medicine stuff, I mean, a lot of what oncologists do is very much just looking stuff up in tables. So having an AI type thing to help them out would not be the worst thing, or physician's assistants, or anybody in those ranges. I'm just trying to think of other businesses where it would make a lot of sense.
Well, it's kind of like in the field that GEODS is in, and the field I was formerly in. There's a lot of the AI/VI stuff that's being used to make it so that they don't have to train employees as much. Like, I had an entire thing, and I'm not going to name it because I'm afraid someone's going to know what I'm talking about, but it had a name, and it was like you asked the customer questions, and you had to fill certain things out, and it would tell you what to do, and that you were supposed to follow it to the letter, and you were supposed to answer it truthfully, because if you answered certain ways, it would give you the ability to send a truck to have them look at the internet or the TV or the phone or whatever, or and if you fudged anything, that could get you written up, stuff like that. And that's not including the system that they had when people called in, the automated system that everybody loves, where it asks you questions. Have you cycled your router? That kind of stuff. So it's that too, because then it gives them the ability, because like when I went into my job, you had to at least have some college and been working in customer service for at least 2 to 4 years before they would even give you an interview. By the time I left, they were taking people fresh out of high school.
Yeah, the cup holder on my computer no longer works.
That kind of stuff. But no, that's kind of what it's doing. I won't state whether that's a good or bad thing, because but that's basically where that's going in the cable area of everything, cable and internet and TV. Well,
expert systems to basically help people make better decisions are not a bad thing necessarily, and they won't necessarily result in job loss.
No.
What's more interesting to me are augmented reality systems. So if you have like this big, ginormous warehouse with a bunch of stuff in it, suppose somebody says, go get the Ark of the Covenant out of the warehouse where the top men put it. You can have an AR type thing which helps you find it.
I think that would be really good in museums, because some museums have storage collections that they haven't looked at in 50 plus years.
Well, think about it. If you're putting an order together for some place like Amazon, and you've got like a bajillion parts bins and things, assuming they weren't all roboticized, you could have a thing which helps you not only find the things within the warehouse for the customer, but also plot the optimal course through the warehouse to get them.
Yeah, that was part of the aircraft thing. It wasn't just gates and people mover management. It was also flight routes, minimizing times, with the kind of coordination that it requires a whole lot of man hours to do.
Yeah. Some of the first applications for supercomputers in business were, I think it was FedEx. They got a big cray early on to sort of optimize the package delivery. And even a small percent increase in the efficiency of that, is a huge thing in terms of their competitive advantage with the other companies. So let's see. We are 42 minutes into the show. Where are we supposed to be? Oh, we are doing so beautifully. We're right on track. Let's see. I think it was you, Functional, wanted to talk about wage growth stagnation hits men harder than women. What's the cause? Was that you?
Yeah, I presented that mostly because I wanted to know more from the economics side, because a lot of what this article does is there's a lot of graphs, a lot of jargon. I'm not an economics guy, so that's where we really lean on Skep and to a lesser extent you. So from what I gleaned from
I'm
this,
not being defensive, but you might actually be surprised by how much econ I have in my background.
You know more than me.
You know what we could do? Why don't we could just table this until next week? Would
Sure.
you like
Yeah.
to do that?
Actually. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think what would be good about that is you could also look to see if there are any other articles on it.
Yeah.
Because that I looked at that article too, Functional, and it was
It's
with
zero
yeah.
hedge. Tyler Durden has a way about things.
Yeah,
Yes, he does.
It was. There's almost a fait accompli presentation, which I find those disturbing because it's like, okay.
I mean, most of it seems to come from the Becker Friedman Institute for Economics at the University of Chicago.
Okay.
Good school.
Yeah.
It's a
I'm
good
sure
school,
that
but
they're having a great time right now watching M1 and M2 skyrocket for no good reason. I'm sorry, Serenity, I didn't mean to cut you off.
But yeah, like
Oh.
because I
hold
don't
on,
know.
hold on. Serenity was
sorry.
trying to talk, and I
Sorry.
got in her way. What
Oh
was
no,
that?
you're good. I was saying it's probably going to give it time for other people to rebut, or it'll maybe make it even funnier if something like Pink News picks it up. It's like now women
yes.
can't find men who actually earn enough. It's like fuck off.
Yeah.
That's what I'm waiting for. Those are the
Yes,
articles.
you've picked a philosophy that's going to make you miserable and die alone. Congratulations.
Good going there.
Sorry, Prospero?
No, I was going to say. I mean, there's some on the face of it. You can guess some of the plausible explanations because manufacturing has diminished significantly since the 60s, where the median peaked. And then the mean peaked in 1972 for men. The manufacturing industry has plummeted, and women were not strong figures in manufacturing.
Nope.
Never were big assembly line workers.
Other than World War II,
Right.
munitions, that's about it. There's an
Well,
exception.
Yeah.
Women have gone into education
Make a
predominantly.
movie,
a lot of higher
assembly line of
Office
our own.
jobs.
Yes.
Office
Well,
jobs.
it's like
Yep, and education. Education's controlled by women now.
Yeah.
if
my
you,
thought-
I think there's an article. I gotta find it later, but there was an article that basically said the only manufacturing women went into was food.
Yeah, they were in food services.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah,
which
is that like with Lucille Ball with the chocolate?
Yeah, like chocolate and stuff like that, or
Yeah.
candy. But no, I mean it's the food.
I
It's
assume
like-
everybody knows the sketch I'm talking
oh
about.
god, that's an
God, it's
awesome
amazing.
sketch.
I'm not a
Amazing.
huge Lucy fan, but that whole
Yeah.
thing with
One.
her and was it Ethel? What was
Yeah,
her
Yeah, it
name?
was Ethel.
With
It was
her and
Ethel.
Ethel in the chocolate factory, and the
Oh,
assembly
God.
line just starts going so fast that Lucy just tries to eat them and then hide them in like her brassiere, and it's
Yeah.
hilarious. It's
Yeah.
actually a great scene.
That one and the Vita Vita
Yeah.
Vegemin are probably the two finest set piece episodes of I Love Lucy.
Yeah. Speaking of something else funny, China has an opinion about our military maneuvers.
Oh god, and can't
So-
they just take that and shove it straight
We,
up
we
their
gotta
ass?
preface this. I gotta preface this. Global Times is a Chinese owned and operated outlet. So
Yeah, globaltimes.cn if anybody wants the
yeah,
URL.
we're looking at something from the other side of the glass.
The People's Liberation Army says.
Yeah, basically.
Well, hopefully, Geodes,
West Taiwan.
Are you putting the URLs for all of these things or just a few of these things in the
No,
chat?
I'm trying to get them all.
Oh, you got it. Yeah, okay. So you those of you in the chat who want to enjoy this, it's there for you. Okay, so joint drill by U.S. allies on Japanese land, insignificant analysts. That's. I hope this is a translation. That's some great verbiage in that headline. The ongoing joint exercises by Japanese, U.S., French, and Australian troops claim to serve as a deterrent to China is only symbolic and of little military significance, as the drill was put together by participants that have different agenda or are too weak, experts said on Wednesday, while slamming Japan's outdated mindset of rallying alliances for confrontation.
Wait, Harry, you know what we should have done with this? We should have blocked Global Times and be like, is it China or is it CNN? Because the grammar is just as good.
Yeah, because I'm sitting there going, I'm hearing, it's really racist, but I'm hearing an accent.
Yeah. And he knew that one day the super karate monkey death car would park in his space. Yes. The People's Liberation Army, PLA, doesn't even need to make pointed responses to the joint drill since it's insignificant militarily. PLA should make concrete steps in its own development, like it did with recent drills and warship commissioning, said analysts. These analysts are really pro-China. It's amazing. Japan and the U.S. and France kicked off their first ever joint military drill in southwestern Japan on Tuesday, with an Australian naval ship also taking part in the week-long air, land, and sea exercises, AFP reported. 10 surface vessels from the 4 countries, plus a Japanese submarine, will participate in the drill. Citing a Japanese scholar, the report claimed that the drill is a deterrent to Chinese moves in the East and South China Seas, including those over the Diaoyu Islands, which are Chinese territories. Has anybody fact-checked that? Are they actually Chinese territories?
No, West Taiwan. The part
Serenity,
of West Taiwan.
you're my fact-check person. Find out if those islands are actually Chinese territories or if these are those fake
Diaoyu
islands that they put together.
Oh, they're the Senkaku Islands in Japan.
Oh, okay.
And the Diaoyu Islands of the PRC, and then there's also the Diaoyu Islands of the Republic of China, Taiwan. So it's disputed territory.
Yeah, it's not even disputed in the level of the Malvinas. It sounds like
Diaoyu are
Falklands.
Islands.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, if you would like a map, I can find you a map.
No, I think we know that China's asshole. I think we got that pretty well figured out.
Very much asshole.
Yeah.
West Taiwan.
Well, I mean, to give you an idea, like, the islands are 330 kilometers from Guangzhou in China, and they're 410 kilometers from the southernmost part of Japan, which is the Naha Islands.
Okay.
So it's like they're right there, and they're like 170 kilometers from Taipei.
But I figured they would not miss an opportunity to claim something that was disputed, and I was disappointed.
It's like the whole business of the East China Sea.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you say that to somebody who lives in the Philippines, and they're like, excuse the hell out of me, but that is the Philippines.
It's like, I kick your ass.
This is a beautiful piece of journalism here, totally fair and balanced.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
The drill will not be a threat to China because it was only scraped together. Song Xingping, a Chinese military affairs expert and TV commentator, and owner of one of the highest social credit scores in Chinese history, told the Global Times on Wednesday. The French troops traveled from afar only to do the U.S. a favor and show presence. And while foreign reports said France had strategic interests in the Indo-Pacific region, where it has territories including the French island of Reunion in the Indian Ocean and the French Polynesia in the South Pacific, it has no core interests in the West Pacific, let alone confronting China.
Bullshit.
If a military conflict breaks out in the region, France will wait and see and even prevent NATO from participating, Song predicted, noting that
No.
France and the US have many substantial differences, including on NATO's eastward expansion. Australia's military is too weak to be a worthy opponent of China, and if it dares to interfere in a military conflict, for example, in the Taiwan Straits, its forces will be among the first to be hit, Song said. Australia must not think it can hide from China if it provokes. Australia is within range of China's conventional warhead-equipped DF-26 intermediate-range ballistic missile, observers point out. Okay,
2
weird
words.
flex, but go on.
Emu
ahead.
drop.
I mean, it's also the fact of who had to have their
Cassowaries.
warship tugboated back to their freaking port.
Yeah.
Their aircraft carrier.
Sorry, aircraft carrier.
Yes.
Sorry, tonight's theme is just shitting on China.
The repurposed
West Taiwan.
Soviet
West
aircraft carrier.
I do want to make it clear though that the people over on the east side of the world have been playing a lot of Plague Inc. So just keep that in mind. You know, they know how to beat that game.
Yeah, China hasn't played Risk though. If you hold Australia, it's smart money is on whoever puts their army on Australia.
If numbers in terms of the number of ships is the only thing that matters, we would have lost the Battle of Midway.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
God knows we tried with some of the problems we had with our air wings, but we
And-
didn't.
and don't forget, it's not just you. There are other forces that would come together because we're allies to defend someplace like Australia.
Yeah, I think they seem to forget that there might be something like the
British Royal Navy, the Canadian Navy, the American Navy.
Well, I mean, there's just also the fact that they're like France is trying to stop the eastward expansion of NATO and stuff like that. No, they're not. If you look at some of the stuff that France has done, no, they're not. You're full of shit, motherfucker.
Well, okay, I'm like, all right, eastward expansion of NATO. So far, what, Turkey?
Turkey. Yeah.
I'm like, what are you even talking about? Shit for brains. There is a separate set of treaties called CETO,
Mhm.
and the ANZAC that have been in place as far as Southeast Asia and the ANZAC states.
So good they named a biscuit after it.
Yeah. So in the alliance with Japan has fuck all to do with NATO. I mean, the fact that there are NATO nations that would view it. This is more about the G7 and the G20, than it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I'd be
Fuck you,
interested.
China.
I'd be interested, in all seriousness, to see what would happen if China tries something militarily with Taiwan.
You
or
probably
Hong
will live
Kong.
to see it.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah, I
probably go live
know.
to see it.
I just want to know what the West's response to something like that would be, because obviously it would start very small like that. It already has on the Indian border, but now on the other side of China, we little things are sort of building up. So I'm not anxious, but I wonder
It will
what our
depend
response
on who is in power.
Yeah.
And in what nations who is in power.
Yeah,
Well, I
that's,
mean,
that's what
take
it's
a look
gonna
at
depend on.
your government right now. There are quite a few. No. They might not. You might not have strong leadership per se.
Come on,
But
man.
there are a lot of war hawks backing him.
There are, but he would still pay them off because they
With
don't want to get to war
China?
in China. They don't want to go to that.
Yeah, number one, we don't want to go to war with China. I don't think you could
No.
find a side that would
No.
like that idea because
No, I think war with a major nuclear power is a bad idea.
Oh, hell yeah.
I mean, if proxy wars are kind of fun because at least you can sort of not get the nukes involved at that point. But literally, us going against the Chinese is bad. And that's the point of the exercise. The point of the exercise is to take all of these different pieces, throw the U.S. in, and to basically say, look, if you mess with any of the pieces, you mess with us. And we're literally doing this is the modern version of mutually assured destruction.
It's fuck around and find out.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit of saber rattling. Yeah.
the problem is if they moved on Taiwan tomorrow, I don't think. I
don't think that there would be
I don't think. I
response.
don't think there would be a response.
There wouldn't be.
I don't
there
think-
At least
there would
not
be-
a physical one.
Oh, there would be a lot of
There
talk.
would be very stern
Tongue-wagging.
words.
There-
Very
there-
stern
finger
words.
pointing.
There would be,
possibly
don't
some
cross that
sanctions.
red line, and then they step over the red line. Oh,
Yeah.
you're very bad. You're
You're
very,
gonna get
very
it.
bad.
But if you cross this red
You
line,
cheeky boys.
You'll really get the sternly worded letter. Yeah, I don't. I expect if. Well, I've been expecting that most of my adult life.
Yeah. You know
Um,
that TV show that you like so much? Tencent produces that. We're going to cancel it. You'll never know how the story ends.
Eh. Well, the thing is like there's so much like League of Legends people would lose all their stuff because that's Tencent. There's so much stuff that would just go,
Sure.
That's right. All your digital media is mine. Haha. You know. Yeah.
and everybody would go, okay, I don't have
Yeah.
to listen to League of
I
Legends
mean-
players anymore. Yes.
It would be a good way to give them a 1-4.
Well, it's one of the reasons that people have been calling for, and I've seen centrists call for this, a Cold War with China, which I think was what the previous administration was doing a little bit with the tariff game,
Yeah.
which was the fuck around, find out.
And
is the-
actually taking some action monetarily.
and getting some
economically.
response,
Mhm.
which means that there was a rather solid reason
yeah.
for China to wish to see regime change
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, especially to someone like Biden.
by hook or by crook or by flu or by woo.
Chew.
where's the God Emperor when you need him? That's my question.
On Holy Terra.
We need
Yeah,
a
hold the
poo.
throne.
We need a poo.
We're not there yet, functional.
But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed something that deals with a serious issue, but that we could take a little bit more jovially, seeing
Yeah.
from the other side, the propaganda, because it's literally their state propaganda.
Yeah, we are literally, I think, 5 of the only people on YouTube that aren't being paid by the Chinese.
Yeah, really.
I don't know. I think Hard Bastard really hates them.
Oh yeah, no,
Maybe Sinatra.
obviously that was hyperbole.
Yeah. But no, it's one of those things where it's kind of like I would be really interested to see TikTok get yanked out from under people. That would make me giggle like a
I
little
would
schoolgirl.
laugh.
I want to see all Blizzard games get yanked out. That would be.
And China ain't that stupid.
Speaking of empires that are ruled by
Assholes?
assholes who control the media, Amazon pays to take
Yeah.
MGM chess piece off the board.
So MGM and Metro Goldwyn Mayer?
Amazon.com
Mayor.
Yeah.
Okay.
would combine a few moves in its potential $9 billion MGM holdings deal. Jeff Bezos' firm may pay a huge premium for the co-owner of the James Bond franchise, despite the risk that it could get caught in regulatory purgatory. Oh, that's a chewy phrase.
Bezos WAPO. WAPO is providing Biden daily blowjobs.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, but even if a deal isn't approved, it would take a coveted asset off the streaming market for a while, giving the 1.6 trillion e-commerce giant a chance to catch up to its media rivals. In a deal that could be announced as soon as Tuesday, according to media reports, Amazon would pay almost 2/3 more than where the privately traded MGM was valued in December, according to the Wall Street Journal. Amazon's deal would amount to about 37 times MGM's 2021 estimated, oh my God, what the hell, EBITDA, taken by annualizing the company's disclosed first quarter figure. That's almost triple the enterprise value to unpronounceable acronym multiple that Discovery's deal implied for AT&T's content assets announced last week. Basically, they're paying a
okay.
fuck ton of money.
You want to know
buy
what
this.
EBITDA stands for? It's
Yeah, I was about
earnings.
to say I could
I
earnings
thought it
before-
was. I thought it was a brand of sodas and beers from.
Yeah, I know. EBITDA,
From New
EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization.
Yeah.
I know econ. I don't know finance.
Hey, wait, yeah, it's just their bugger.
I don't know anything that's going on here. Is Amazon looking to buy MGM as a like in its entire? Oh, okay.
Well, also the catalog of films. So
Yeah,
in
yeah,
some
that
ways,
would obviously come
Amazon
with it.
could justify the splurge. Bezos' company spent $11 billion in 2020 on streaming content, more than a 40% jump from 2019. MGM's catalog of films with about 4,000 titles would boost its library by about 17%.
It also puts them in. I've been trying to see whether MGM Holdings is the whole shebang, with Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer Studios being a subsidiary. But MGM is in the entertainment business in other ways, because there was the consortium that MGM was part of in Vegas.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering whether this is part of that, or whether that is a
I think this might be another Time Warner thing, where it's basically two halves of a sort of whole, kind of, where it's like there's the production side where it's like TV shows and music and all that kind of stuff, and then there's the cable internet phone side. So it might be two splitsies, because I know MGM at one point was owned by Disney, and then Disney made that go bye-byes.
They cut them loose.
Yeah, they cut them loose, and then, but that's probably what it is, because I think the hotel and stuff like that are different factors.
Yeah, because this is the parent company, and they were talking about being the half owner of the Bond franchise. So I don't know who is the other half.
I'm just glad it isn't Disney buying up MGM.
I am looking that up right now.
Because Disney owns entirely too much stuff.
Yes, they do.
And they're complete assholes about a lot of their copyright things. We should not have changed the copyright law just so Steamboat Willie wouldn't slide into the public domain.
That's actually something I stumbled across a little while ago. There was a stream I was watching from Unsafe Space, where they were they were debating basically like open market versus closed market, and I was hearing the case made for like why companies should still be allowed to more or less do whatever they want versus like the government. And but I'm kind of going like Disney's kind of a pretty good example of why you shouldn't allow that, in my opinion.
Yeah, Eon still owns half of the Bond enterprise,
which are the half siblings of Robert Broccoli's kids. Yeah. Barbara and Michael G. Wilson.
So
I think now would be a good time to cash out of that franchise, honestly.
Yeah,
no.
they're planning
the
on
new movies
keeping
have
it going,
still been they've been pumping them out, and they've been making big money. It's just with Koof, and almost the virtual shutdown of Hollywood, they haven't been they canceled the production on the latest film, but those films still make a lot of money. What was the last one?
Oh no, I understand that. I'm just worried about the current woke one that they were working on. I'm just worried they're going to destroy their own IP.
But that's
by
no, Harry. That was all hearsay and conjecture. There was no. People were jumping the gun. It happens a lot with these kinds of entertainment properties. I don't know if that was actually where it was going to have.
Well, also things get rewritten all the time.
Yeah,
things get rewritten all the time.
Because remember, also Barbara and Matthew have creative control.
Well,
on the property.
Thing is that do you know who the new head writer is for the new James Bond?
Ta-Nehisi Coates.
No, it's one of the other. It's
that woman,
Killing Eve,
Waller-Bridge.
That woman.
Real quick. Good morning, Sora.
Hi, Sora. But okay,
that's interesting. But again, you never know, because there are a lot of moving parts in the industry, especially when you're talking properties this huge. And that's why you can get something like the first Wonder Woman out of Patty, and then when she's given more creative control, the second one kind of floats like a dead fish.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, the highest grossing James Bond movie in North America as of November 2018 was Skyfall at $300 million.
Skyfall, that was the one.
Is that, but adjusted for inflation, is it still the highest grossing?
I do not know. This is from Statista.
Yeah, because they love, when we're talking about this sort of stuff, to not pay attention to what inflation does.
Yeah.
Partially because there has to be this aura of everything always being bigger and better over time.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
it's like,
ultimately, if you correct for inflation, Gone with the Wind cleans the clock of just about
Oh,
everything.
yeah.
Sure.
every time.
But I mean,
And-
even in today's market, 300 million is a good take.
No,
Well,
that is a good take. Yeah.
Skyfall
Well-
was the second movie that the new Bond was in, Daniel Craig.
Yeah.
In your Craig, yeah.
Yeah, the next one he
Casino
did
Royale.
was Spectre, which was 2015, and that one lost. It was $100 million lower than Skyfall.
All
It
right,
was two-
I've got the highest grossing James Bond movies adjusted to inflation. Now, this was 2013.
Okay, so we're gonna miss
Okay.
the last two.
Yeah.
Do you want to put the link in the private chat? I can bring it up.
Hang on. Copy. Boingy boingy.
This is fun because I used to read that my mother had the collection of the books, and I used to sit there as a kid trying to read them, and would get in trouble because it was like that's not for you. That's like adult literature. There's adult themes. I'm like, Mom, I already know about sex. What's going on here?
Yeah. I learned it from you. Oh, sorry.
I learned it from those books and from late night TV.
Okay, highest grossing James Bond movies adjusted to inflation. All right. Well, it's an infographic.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Okay.
Shawnee
so this is
boy at the
basically
top.
based on earnings per bond, and of course that doesn't normalize it over the number of movies.
Yeah,
No, it's you've got to get into the.
because there's Timothy Dalton was in what?
Oh, this
two
is
of them?
average per movie adjusted for $2012.
Yeah.
So if you're adjusting for inflation and you look at the average per movie that they were in, Sean Connery is the king.
Mhm.
Oh, very closely
$729 million averaged.
by Lazenby and Craig. So Craig's being
Yeah.
the man right now. It's still making money.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no.
Lazenby was only in one film. Remember what Connery made at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Piss poor by comparison to actor salaries now.
Yeah.
And movie cost of making.
I think
I mean, Lazenby was in On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and that is that.
Because I think Connery only made like 15 or 20 grand for Goldfinger.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Oh, there we go. Thunderball, Goldfinger, Live and Let Die, Only Live Twice, Spy Who Loved Me, Dr. No, Octopussy.
those are
Living
the
Daylights-
lowest grossing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
which-
View to a Kill was terrible.
Yeah.
Tanya Roberts is terrible. She's a terrible actress.
She's dead, dear. So you
I know. That's,
Dr. No was
that doesn't change the fact that she was a terrible actress. That was a bad movie. And Octopussy is a silly movie. Louis Jourdan did not do any of us any favors here.
So was Dr. No, but
it's
both
not
of those
that
were
bad.
very memeable.
Yeah,
Very
I actually
memeable
kind of
movies,
enjoyed
Dr. No
that
and
movie.
Octopussy.
But I'm
License to
derailing,
Kill was just no. Come on.
I'm derailing my
Come on,
own
T-Dalt.
stream here, which is really not good. I'm setting a very poor example. Let's see. Something of substance here. Enough jocularity. Here's how we take all of the fun out of everything. High cost of
boy.
Los Angeles homeless camp raises eyebrows and questions. Yeah, so here you have your designated spot. You get to put your tent there. I'm not sure how you hook a tent to anything. If the wind came along, these would all just roll around like tumbleweeds.
They all have their stuff inside the tent, so it kind of keeps it weighted down. But yes, a very strong wind, that tent is going flying.
Yes. A city-sanctioned encampment for homeless people in Los Angeles includes 70 tents and provides bathrooms, showers, and 24-hour security. In Los Angeles, city officials grappling with an ongoing homelessness crisis have turned to an idea that for decades was politically unpopular and considered radical: a government-funded tent encampment. Other cities, including San Francisco, Seattle, and Tampa, Florida, have opened similar programs in recent years, but the high public cost of LA's first sanctioned campground, more than $2,600 per tent per month, has advocates worried it will come at the expense of more permanent housing. You think?
That's more than twice my fucking rent.
Yeah, and you don't exactly live in a cheap part of Canada.
No.
No. The campsite opened in late April on a fenced-in parking lot beside the 101 freeway. Oh God! See, they made me do this. They made me do that Southern Californian thing, and now I feel dirty. In East Hollywood, the lot turned campground. I'm sorry, everybody who knows me, they would get on my case. The lot turned campground can accommodate up to about 70 tents in 12 by 12 foot spots marked with white squares painted on the asphalt. On a recent afternoon, the site was nearly full. A row of porta potties stood along one side of the camp. The program also provides showers, 3 meals a day, and 24-hour security. Campers get entered into the county's database for matching unhoused people with social services matching unhoused people with social services and housing resources. It is meant to corral the tents and cobble together structures that currently stand in parks, on sidewalks, and below freeway overpasses, while providing homeless people with services and potential stepping stone to permanent homes. Thoughts, people?
They're adding
Craft.
another layer of bureaucracy that inflates all of this, because, like they mentioned, there's porta potties, there's security, there's all the outreach programs
meals a
already
day.
exist. Yeah. So
Yeah, there's a lot of potential for graft in this. The problem with the low income housing thing, getting homeless people to live in the low income housing.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a basic. This is a basic problem. A lot of those
everybody-
people are. Yeah, I'm sorry, functional. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, well, societies everywhere, everybody will always have a homeless issue.
It's a misfit underclass that in many cases are mentally ill, have drug dependencies.
Sure.
A lot of that is because they're mentally ill.
Don't forget the hobo lifestyle is a thing.
Yeah, and that I don't want things business. That hobo lifestyle, and riding the rails isn't done anymore because
I got my bindle and I'm looking for my hobo princess.
Yep. and they don't want to. Some of these people have deliberately dropped out of society. They'll take the tent because it's being given along with the 3 squares.
Sure.
And it's not the same as prison because they can walk away from it whenever they want to. The people you want to capture are the people who are hard times homeless, the people sleeping in their cars because they lost their home, who still have their dog and their kids with them. Those are the people that I think we feel far more obliged to try to capture and repatriate, so to speak.
I think it would be
into the
definitely
system.
easier and more receptive on their end, to exactly get them back into society, into a productive role, into some sort of contentment, rather than the person with some sort of issue who really does not. You're putting a square peg in a round.
Yeah,
hole.
Well, either that, or
In some cases,
or we need to reinstitute the asylums, and the problem is that that's already been adjudicated to some extent over the rights of the individuals. Some of these people would demonstrably be safer in asylums because they are profoundly ill. They need regular medication and they will not take it. And I get why people don't take Thorazine. Okay, I get it. It has a lot of really gnarly side effects, and I mean, there are some better drugs that have come along, or at least modifications, or other drugs that can be taken that help ameliorate some of it. But schizophrenia is extremely difficult to manage without medication, and a lot of these people are sitting ducks. I think people mix up. They hear schizophrenic and it's going to be some kind of violent psychotic.
No,
most schizophrenics are not violent. They are psychotic, but they're not violent. But they are sitting ducks for the genuine sociopaths in society.
Yes.
They are the people that MS-13 will grab and chop into little pieces for practice. You know, that they're...
I hate to boil it down to numbers as well, but it was also a lot cheaper to provide and care for these people within the asylum structure.
It was, and actually you could create the prison farm model. A lot of these people are perfectly capable of working as long as they're on their medication.
Yeah, we give them the Dr. Phil treatment and send them to the ranch. Now,
Yeah.
the issue is, there are going to be people who the only way to help them is to make them wards of the state.
Yes.
Now, this is when in this arena we're dealing with bad options and worse options.
Yes.
So, do you want to solve the homelessness problem by giving the state the ability to have very subjective criteria that they use to decide that people should be made a ward of the state? And that seems like a bad idea.
Yes.
That seems like something that could be misused.
Yep.
So I'm more
Right.
than if there are people, if you set up places where people can voluntarily seek treatment,
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
If you want to set up a program where there's showers that are available and a person can get like a used suit or and a shave and a haircut at a discount and get
sure
cleaned
they're
up
not
to go to a
spreading
job
plague.
interview, fine. You want to give people like a P.O. box where stuff can be sent there and even like a place where a voice message can be left, fine.
Yes.
There are a lot of things you could do to help people that would help the people that have just sort of fallen on hard times but really don't want to be there and don't need to be there.
Or even a physical address. It's one of the things that we
Exactly,
do
just a
need to
physical
address
address.
about homeless shelters, because post office boxes are disqualifiers for certain things.
But these are implementation details. The
Yes,
point
they
being
are.
that we can help people with the mental health problems if they volunteer. We can help people with very reasonable, low-cost accommodation to get things back on their feet. But that's not what these folks want.
No.
They want us to just give free stuff to
Throw
people, thinking that will solve the problem. And what it will do is it will create basically projects where people who need mental health care and people who are kind of in the dark underbelly of society get in there with these people that are the deserving poor and make it into a living hell.
Yes.
Yeah.
You've also got a problem with a large number of the mentally ill end up in prison.
Yeah.
And we do not address it there. Because if you have already made yourself a ward of the state through committing a crime, and I don't mean vagrancy, they've committed crimes, then that is a different matter. You still can't force medication on people.
Yeah.
Joe
Since
Biden says, "Hold
we're
my
not
beer."
going to force people to become wards of the state, we don't want to do that. That means that you have to live with the fact that there are always going to be some people that are going to be homeless, that are going to be trying to live amongst us, and frequently they will do it in ways which we find to be terribly inconvenient.
Now, Harry, what you mentioned was the alternative. This voluntary system is basically the system that we instituted here in Canada with the dissolution of asylum structures.
Mm-hmm.
It is very there is a certain level of abuse that does take place, but for the majority, for the most part, it is very effective.
Right, but like with schools,
I think you're on the money with this.
But like, as with schools, if you have a situation where it's like you can't kick the poor little thing out because then what will happen to them? If you don't have the ability to say, okay, you're not getting along with everybody here, you have to leave because it's a right now. We want homeless rights activists. It's a right, so you can't tell this person who's selling drugs that they have to leave. Then you just run into problems because what you're doing is because you're not willing to make tough decisions or the least bad decision, you're making it so that the other people that are trying to get their life back on track can't succeed.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, that's like one of the things I remember discussing at one point was more or less talking about how the asylum structures, at least here in the U.S., they were actually pretty good for a while, but then it got to the point where it more or less there were just too many people in for some of these places, and it kind of grew as I guess a branch of I guess psychological medicine, and to the point where people that they started recruiting were coming in with ill intentions to a certain extent, which is why you end up having more abuse in these situations.
So Serenity, you're familiar with Aiden Paladin?
Oh heck yeah!
Can
Fellow
you
Holmes
maybe
people.
provide a link to her video on the history of the West Virginia sanitariums and throw that in the
really?
chat for everybody?
Okay.
Yes, I
haven't gone
can.
I've been
Thank
going
you
through
very
her
much.
back catalog because she's really great in
No,
well,
she's
breaking this
outstanding,
stuff
and
down.
I think that might provide some really good context as to what we've lost.
We should
Well,
try to get her
it's-
on the show.
It's one of those
if only.
things that, as someone who had a great aunt who was shoved into the asylum systems, this way her brother didn't have to give her part of the inheritance. As with everything, there's dangers. So it's one of those things where it's kind of like, I'm always kind of hinky about the asylum system just because of that. Because once you've had a family member get shot and die, she died in the asylum.
I know. That's why I like to rephrase things, because everybody seems to think there's a solution to things, and sometimes all you have to find an adult who can find the least bad solution.
Yeah,
And this is where people get really uncomfortable, and that's why I keep bringing it up, because I'm an asshole.
And with modern thought, modern technology, modern discoveries of these things, we can take some of the things and structures that may have worked previously and adapt them for the modern day. Like when I say, let's bring back the asylums, I'm not saying bring back, the shoving people in straitjackets into padded rooms and then give them ECT every week. No, but maybe a similar structure in which, yes, we do remove those dangerous people from the prison system and actually try to treat them.
Yeah, and attitudes about drugs change over time. I cite this. For prompt control of nausea and vomiting in children, Thorazine, syrup, and suppositories. Okay, kid,
Thanks,
you better stop. You better stop throwing up, or you're gonna get the Thorazine suppository.
Yeah, it's off. It's a fucking awful drug.
Yeah.
I mean, it works brilliantly, but it's got just brutal side effects for most people.
Yeah, we were a little bit more cavalier with drugs back then.
Yeah, and I mean,
Prescription drugs, I mean.
well, like a touch of Thorazine is like one thing,
Yeah.
which is what something like that's going to be. But the kind of load you have to carry to mitigate schizophrenia, entirely different thing. I mean, it causes loss of motor function,
Oh, jeez.
drooling, shuffling gait, foggy headed. Elowen had mentioned, how difficult
Yeah, I
it
saw
was with
that.
bipolar people, and I think a lot of bipolars are addicted to their manic
they are.
side, and they don't like where medication lands them, because it lands them, like most of the rest of us are, on the slightly depressed side. Well, no, technically speaking,
Yeah.
I know.
normal is a touch below the median.
But it's still funny when you say it, though.
Yeah. Well, but the thing is that if you're a highly creative individual, or you feel like you're a highly creative individual, which is one thing that bipolar people frequently do, whether they are or not, where they can be absolutely, just like listening to Robin Williams talk about it, colossal fucking assholes when they're manic. They think they're witty, sparkling, and entertaining.
Of course.
And, yeah.
This is one of those, if I listen to it for too long, I want to slip my wrist type of things.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, moving on to the happy making things block of the show. Geodes, you said you actually wanted to talk about this.
Yeah. It was
Yes.
So this is your opportunity to do that thing.
All right. So we have a company locally here in the state of New Mexico called Virgin Galactic. They have been they more or less started out, I think, around 2003, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think it was Branson reached out to, was it Burt Rutan? A very famous aircraft designer.
Yeah. Basically, the premise behind what Virgin Galactic is intended to be is it's supposed to be plane flights up into the upper parts of the atmosphere, I believe, to allow people who pay the tickets to fly on these to actually be able to see the globe from really high up effectively. And I think
it's space tourism. Also, it would be a fun field trip for flat Earth idiots.
Exactly.
They'd still say it was flat, Harry. You know they would.
My stigmatism acted up.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, definitely.
We don't have Rocket Guy again. We'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, no, apparently, I guess it was last Saturday, they finally made it their first rocket-powered flight from our state to the fringe of space, and then more or less, it was actually successful this time. They've had they have failure. I think I want to say back in 2014, around there. I'm not entirely sure, but this just kind of struck me because I mean, for me specifically, at least, our state, we constantly hear about this company come up on the news at least once or twice a year. I think partially because of the big push for space exploration, or as far as like even more research as far as sending drones to Mars and trying to get like NASA programs running again to kind of get some new expeditions going, and with Elon Musk's rocket program going, it's very hyped up in our state. One thing I don't think this article mentions, and I did find it in another article, is how much money our state has given to this company, which is about
for space tourism, basically.
For space tourism, $200 million in total, and it says, the way they phrase it, I love it. It says New Mexico taxpayers have invested over $200 million. We did not invest that. Our governors gave our taxpayer money to this company. There's a big difference.
To be fair, though, the governor was voted in to do that on behalf of the people. I agree with you, but
he's bringing whales to the thing. Just set up some casinos near the launch pads. It'll be
exactly,
big money. So you've got people with a lot of money and risk-taking behavior. You'll make so much money just on roulette and baccarat that it'll pay for itself. All of that state money.
Sure, it will.
Yeah. No.
How about some Navajo jewelry? Thanks, John Redcorn. That was great.
There you go.
Really an Italian.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, in Arizona, all the Navajo just went, "Excuse me."
Exactly.
Yeah, I keep forgetting what ass kickers the North American natives were. Minions of the Zoo and myself disavow all of this. Okay, so,
but yeah, no. In my attitude on this whole thing, when I read it, I was like, well, at least we finally got something out of this. Like basically, it's kind of more or less my thought process.
Well, it is kind of cool. I mean, if nothing else, it's I'm trying to remember the space plane that they basically made, because that's really what it is. It's a space plane. And as I recall, it's sort of like the X-15 in that it's a conventional aircraft gets it up to a fairly high altitude. And then this thing detaches and goes up into the to where the atmosphere is very thin, and you're effectively weightless in space.
Yeah. Exactly.
So I think it's using like recycled tires and peroxide or something as an oxidizer. I'm trying to remember what it is.
It's the VSS Unity. Let me see if I can look it up here.
Virgin Starship, is that what it is?
Virgin Spaceship Unity. Yeah.
Okay.
It
must be fun being an eccentric billionaire.
Yeah, really, man.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, it's pretty neat. Don't get, like, I like the concept. It's just...
No, dude, Burt Rutan was a hell... I don't remember if he's still alive, but he was a hell of a designer. He is really famous. If you look at his history and you go back and look at some of the things that man has done, nothing he's ever done was a joke. This is good engineering.
Yeah. No, I mean, I I'm not as familiar with the engineering aspects. I'm more just noticed the company name and I was like, oh boy, here we go again. So I'll have to look into it a bit more. But yeah, no, I mean I'm glad that we're finally getting something out of it. But this is one of those things where I'm like, this.
Oh, come on! If you hadn't spent money on this, you would have just bought an even larger squid statue or something.
It's interesting that the end goals of these billionaires, Bezos, Musk, and Branson, the end goals of their companies are quite different.
Yes.
Musk is exploration and expansion out into space. Branson, with this, he seems like he wants to create an even faster commute from, say, New York to, like from city to city transportation. So if you go high up, you're cutting down the travel time from like LA to New York. You go up and down in like half the time or something.
I would agree and disagree somewhat.
It's more of a question.
I mean, I think it could be applied that way, like in terms of what this could eventually lead to. I mean, this is my problem. Is I'm also remembering like cases there have been cases where they've more or less pointed out like that he's been convicted for tax evasion in the past and other things such as offshore accounts around like $3 billion. So it's kind of one of those things where. I for me, I on one hand, I thought it was interesting because of the the scientific space aspect, because we tend to talk about that a lot. But on the other hand, it's also kind of hits close to home because I'm like, we've thrown so much money at like useless projects, like
for sure.
It's
just something to pay off is nice.
Yeah, and it's only the sole goal is just to get our name on the map again, which is it's silly because we already have our name on the map. We were the test site for the nuclear bombs. Like it's one of those things. Where it's just like,
I think
that
they want
explains you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which explains the reason why all the houses look like bunkers.
There you go.
Prospero, you gonna say it? You gonna say it? You gonna say the thing?
Hey, Adobe architecture is pretty great. Just saying. So.
What thing? That Bert Rutan is still with us?
Branson is asshole.
Branson is asshole.
He has a majestic beard, though.
Bezos is asshole too. Yeah. I think the interesting thing is Functional was heading there. I'm not sure that Branson isn't about ego. Bert Rutan actually thinks that suborbital flight could save us money, fuel, time, things like that. Mm-hmm. That it's a worthy thing to look into.
Yeah.
And I'll go with his better sense of goodwill than I would Branson's.
Yeah.
But Musk does seem to be more forward thinking, and entertainingly enough, Musk doesn't lack ego. Successful people like him do not. But when we saw the delivery of personnel to the space shuttle, care of Elon Musk's work, and all the engineers he did, Elon Musk's money. It was not the Elon Musk show.
No,
it was not the.
He
Elon
seems to have a certain level of grounded, down to earthness because he's a nerd.
Yeah, he has an id and a super ego as well as an ego.
Sure.
He's a businessman. PayPal was a brilliant idea. Okay. It's nothing to be sneezed at. Elon sees his opportunities in areas where he sees that they're going lacking.
He's also good at human resources. He is great at putting the right top men together, but not only the top men, but the top men that can work well together.
Yes. If you've got those kinds of managerial skills, as opposed to the, hi, I'm Richard Branson and my brand is Virgin.
Yeah.
And hi, I'm Jeff Bezos and my goal is to own everything and make you do my bidding. Then you're going to get a different outcome. You're just simply going to get a different outcome.
Yeah.
Musk has more of a pioneering spirit in him that seems to be the check to the ego. He does. I don't think
Almost
Elon.
like a childlike whimsy.
I think Musk also trolls people an awful lot. I think he's realized
He does.
how much bullshit there is in the world of billionaires.
Mm-hmm.
And he's having fun with folks.
Yeah, I was seriously considering putting in a pre-order for a Cybertruck as I was plowing my way through ice cold wind today.
Yeah. Well,
Dude, I totally would have one.
Yeah, they said, well, why do you need, this is Jay Leno, why do you need, bulletproof truck? Why do you need, well, who wouldn't want a bulletproof truck?
I mean, especially if you're living in California.
it's
he's
like
he's not wrong.
who would want a Flammenwerfer? He just built a flamethrower for because who the fuck wouldn't want to start their bonfire for the bonfire night with a
Absolutely.
and it's that whimsy that Musk has, and I really do think he. I may be wrong, but he seems to be perfectly happy to make himself the butt of the joke.
Yeah.
To some extent. Anybody that develops their own brand of flamethrower.
And then
That's
it puts
'cause
out instructions saying, don't use this for anything. It's unsafe.
Yeah.
He does massively troll. But we need to move on to the next thing. Belgium's anti-lockdown Rambo facing terrorism charges, traceless for 5 days while several countries join manhunt efforts.
This article
Manhunt
pissed
efforts.
me off.
Yes.
I mean, it seriously pissed me off. And
Okay.
I'll tell you why.
Please.
I think this guy's a whack, but it was the characterization of him as a far-right extremist. There is nothing. Okay, in Europe, usually your far-right extremist is
Allah Akbar.
no, a far-right.
Keep in mind, this is RT.
Anti-
So, this is...
Anti-Allahu Akbar, anti-jihad, anti-Islam. Marine Le Pen is always classed as far right. The counter jihad movement always. No. I know what you were, but yeah, that they're always classed as Islamophobes.
Yes.
And there are some legit nationalists among them. So yes, I mean like negative meaning of nationalism. Nothing that this guy said was any of that.
No, he was simply anti-lockdown and anti-authoritarian.
Yeah.
Which now is far right, I guess.
He sounded like a libertarian. I'm turning over my life to politicians and virologists. That is the most extreme thing this dude says. And he is being classified. It's as if they've said, all right, dude, we're not even going to give you the chance to surrender. We've determined that you're an enemy of the state and an extremely high risk, dangerous man because we're saying
I think
so.
I know why, because he's special forces. He is the best of the best in.
It's like having an SAS guy loose in Britain with all the toys.
Who doesn't like what the government's doing.
And he is, in that regard, he is dangerous.
Yes.
Because he's unpredictable for him to pick up and leave. He almost sounds like somebody who snapped under quarantine.
Mm-hmm. Something I've been thinking is going to be happening in the West as well, but luckily cooler heads prevailed. So
and this guy has the potential to make Anders Breivik look like he was,
like a fucking Captain Kangaroo.
Well, let's hear a little bit of what the fine folks at RT have to say about
Yes, because this is great.
All of this is right. Hundreds of troops from Belgium and beyond, hundreds, have now thoroughly searched a vast area in the country where a fugitive soldier armed with highly dangerous weapons is believed to be hiding. However, no trace of him has been found. A well-trained sniper from the Belgian army, Jurgen Konings, who has combat experience in several war zones, including Afghanistan, Iraq, and Lebanon, disappeared on Monday, having reportedly left life-threatening notes to top officials. The 46-year-old man is believed to have taken several anti-tank missiles, a submachine gun, and a handgun with an ability to pierce bulletproof vests from his unit's ammunition depot. He himself is believed to be wearing the vest.
The
Cunnings is
handgun
now
has the ability.
terrorist is now a terrorist suspect, according to Belgian media. The federal prosecutor's office has been investigating him for attempted murder and illegal possession of weapons in a terrorist context, the VRT broadcaster reported. Authorities also believe the suspect has not been acting on impulse, but is rather well prepared. I think this would fall under the mad lad category.
Yes. So far, you're making him sound like a hero to me. I don't know.
Well, I
the
mean,
thing
this is mad lad things don't have to be all good or all bad. It's just he's a mad lad. That's the thing.
Well, he's special forces. Of course, he was prepared. Like, I know special forces people, American special forces people. They're prepared for everything.
We just need tailed features like intro music right now. That's all we need.
Oh,
So keep going, it
show
gets
us,
better, it gets
show
better.
us your pizza. Yeah, down. A number of mosques in the Limburg province have closed due to his right-wing extremist views, but they don't cite them.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
At no
they make
point in this
zero reference
article
to it.
do they. So they're classifying him as if he's anti-Islam, but they don't quote anything. And the only person who says he left the letters is the girlfriend, if I read that correctly.
Yes.
Well, where are the letters?
Yeah, I always side eye stuff when there's no letter, there's no
But
naming of stuff or anything like that.
yeah.
And denialist. I love that. A denialist.
Yeah,
But-
yeah, you can't deny things. So I love this. Earlier,
Yes.
a car belonging to the suspect was found. The military man, who had been training other soldiers for foreign missions, has reportedly booby-trapped his vehicle with 4 rocket launchers inside. A grenade and a set of wires linking it to the car's doors are said to have been discovered. There have also been reports that Cunnings left his service medals on his parents' grave, which sources suggested he did on Tuesday.
Guy is
Wow.
fucking Jason Bourne.
Yeah.
Wow. They've got 400 people looking for him.
But what's telling is that last bit of him leaving his service medals on his parents' grave, because that seems to me like he's ready to
He's prepared to die.
Yeah.
He's
If he
prepared to
hasn't
die.
He's
already
prepared,
gone,
but-
he hasn't already gone into the woods and ended himself.
Yeah.
I don't think he's the type of person who would do that. I think he's going to try to go down fighting or escape.
He
Well,
doesn't
let's
look like a quitter based on this picture. I'm just
Yeah.
saying.
Let's rephrase that. He will be found in the woods, and he will, of air quotes, ended himself, even though it probably wasn't him, because it was done with a rifle or something like that he couldn't have hit. That kind
I
of
wonder
thing that's going to happen.
How long is this going to go on?
Does he have
I wonder what
information
he
on the
knows.
Clintons?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I was
exactly.
about to say. What does he know that the timing of everything seems really off too, because they were looking for him and then he left these notes.
Yeah,
Seems a little weird.
I'm wondering if something wasn't lost in the translation
So-
in the article, so to
I
speak.
don't understand. I don't
Possible.
So I
understand
actually-
this story, honestly.
I actually found another article with this same on the same story.
Is it not from RT? Because that's part of why this makes no sense.
Yeah.
It's not from RT. It's from World News.
Okay.
I just posted in the private chat, but according to what I'm seeing, apparently his girlfriend is the one who alerted authorities.
Yes.
And yeah, said he could no longer
Because-
live in society. It's almost a copy of the exact same article, but I'm trying to see if there's any additional details.
It's because she found the notes, Geodes, and then she called the authorities and said, "Here's these notes. He disappeared," and that's why they mobilized the army to go find him.
But
I
the
don't
thing
know
that makes
about almost. This looks like exactly the same article.
Okay,
Yeah.
never mind then.
But the thing is that how shitty are their militaries keeping of records of their munitions because they just realized they lost 4 rocket launchers?
Well,
it's
with his
Belgium.
disappearance, they had to backtrack and because he is active military, so and a higher level.
I understand, but you check that shit out. I don't give a damn how high level you are. They keep at least the American ones.
Yeah,
they
the
keep
armory
track
is
of
not
that.
keeping proper records. But this is Belgium. These are the people that destroyed one of their own aircraft, maintaining the other one.
Not a real country.
This doesn't speak well to the potential for an EU army.
The EU army is America. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, no, but it amuses me because every now and then
this
they like
registered spoon. It's coming right for us.
Spork. It's unregistered spork.
I'm glad that chat's enjoying this as much as I am.
Yeah, this is like
no. This so is Sora still with us? Are you still out there, Sora? Because you're not going to want to miss this if you're out there.
She hasn't talked in chat for a while, so she may.
Oh, she's gonna. She loves this stuff. She loves this stuff.
It's cotton candy time, Sora.
I'll see if I.
Okay. NASA's Curiosity rover captures stunning Martian clouds. This is actually really cool.
This shit, I believe. I don't believe the China stuff. I believe this.
Now, this is supposed to be a real image, right?
Yep.
And that could have been high clouds over over part of Utah. It's as clear as that picture is.
Yeah.
It's a remarkable photograph.
Yeah.
And she's still here. She just said she's in chat.
Okay. Yeah. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, JPL, released multiple images documenting cloudy days in the thin, dry atmosphere of the red planet. Clouds are typically found at the planet's equator in the coldest time of the year when Mars is furthest from the sun in its oval-shaped orbit. But one full Martian year ago, 2 Earth years, scientists noticed clouds forming over NASA's Curiosity rover earlier than expected. Curiosity has taken 21 photographs of the strange Martian clouds over Gale Crater. This year, they were ready to start documenting these early clouds from the moment they first appeared in late January. What resulted are images of wispy puffs filled with ice crystals that scattered light from the setting sun, some of them shimmering with color. More than just spectacular displays, such images help scientists understand how clouds form on Mars and why these recent ones are different. In fact, Curiosity's team has already made one new discovery. The early arrival clouds are actually at higher altitudes than is typical. Most Martian clouds hover no more than about 37 miles in the sky and are composed of water ice. But the clouds Curiosity has imaged are at a higher altitude, where it is very cold, indicating they are very likely made of frozen carbon dioxide or dry ice. Scientists look for subtle clues to establish a cloud's altitude, and it will take more analysis to say for sure which of Curiosity's recent images show water ice clouds and which show dry ice ones. See, this GIF shows clouds floating over Mount Sharp on Mars. The rover took these photos in mid-March. I don't know. This is pretty freaking cool.
It really is. Yeah.
Yeah, and the prismatic striation in some of them was just particularly cool. That's further down in the article where you can see the colors in the clouds.
You can tell an awful lot about weather from the chromatic effects. So, for instance, various types of like sort of rings and rainbows and
cirrus clouds and
things that form on Earth tell you a lot about the size, basically the composition of the crystals, because different things form different shaped crystals, and also the size of them. So by looking at from a light source like the sun, what those effects look like surrounding the sun, you can actually calculate a lot of really interesting things about what's going on.
But that quick little GIF there looks just like cirrus clouds.
Yeah.
And those look a little less cirrusy, but they're still in that same range. But look at that rainbowing in the.
Yep. There's a phenomenon.
Red.
I can't remember what it's called, but I've actually taken pictures of a phenomenon like this on Earth. Well, clearly on Earth. I haven't been to another planet. I don't know why I feel like that.
Are you admitting you're an alien, Harry?
Yeah, there's some. It's just like how you get double. double sun images through refractions and things like that, and very, very high ice crystal clouds.
Yes.
I am from France.
Harry, are you Martian man?
Not
Martian
me.
Manhunter.
That would
I
be
am
cool,
from
though, because then I'd get to fly. That would be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But this is great. I love this. Yeah, I was thinking about how much I really wanted a jetpack today. It occurred to me that if you had a jetpack and your chance of dying from using it was like, say, 1 in 100, would you still try it out? What if it was 1 in 1,000? You know, if it was 1 in 10,000, would you use it for regular commuting? You know, I mean, because just how freaking cool would a jetpack be? I mean, if you're going to risk your life, maybe being epic isn't the worst way to do it.
Back to James Bond, I see.
I don't think James Bond ever had a jetpack, did he?
Yeah.
He did.
Yeah.
Okay,
Don't laugh at me. I don't remember all these things.
Look, also China landed its rover on the plant weeks ago. That is an awesome typo based on that landing that we saw.
Yeah.
Let's go full country. Bless
Okay,
their hearts.
so apparently Thunderbolt, because I remember a small jet,
Yes.
which was super cool. I was totally excited about that when I was a kid. I used to have this book of jets, and I would flip through this book. This was when I was very little, and I would look at this thing and say, "This is cool. I want one of these." But I don't remember a jetpack. I need to just go back and rewatch all the Bond movies. That's
You
clearly
do.
what
It's a
needs to
fun
happen.
waste of time.
That's a fun
Yeah.
little romp.
Well, we are at the end of our list of things to talk about, so we can talk about whatever you folks want to talk about now.
Sweet Jesus.
Don't all go at once.
Well, we could talk about him. We could talk about Sweet Baby Jesus, which is a great chocolate peanut butter border.
That was actually one of the funnier parts of Talladega Nights. I know that people either love or hate Will Ferrell, but the whole thing when he was saying grace and specifying, like, you know, sweet 7 pound, 3 ounce newborn baby Jesus.
Yeah.
That was some good shit.
Yeah. He was actually really good in that movie, and even Sacha Baron Cohen didn't make me want to kill myself.
He does every other time, Harry.
But nobody wants to hear me talk about Borat. So does anybody have anything they would like to discuss?
There was something, but I massive brain farted it away.
He'll remember it the minute you tell him the end of the
When the show ends, yeah.
Son of a bitch!
Well, okay. Well, I guess we'll go ahead and it doesn't sound like there's any final thoughts, so I think we're going to go ahead and wrap things up a little early then.
Bye.
I like to keep the signal noise ratio high, and we don't get extra credit for spending an extra 10 minutes on the air. So thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening. It has been my pleasure to be your host. I want to thank the people who were my guests tonight, because a lot of help was offered to me this week. A lot of great articles submitted, and I really do appreciate the team effort that goes into making this show every Saturday. And with that, the zoo is closed. Good night, everybody.
Night.
Get the